it's like there are simultaneous fronts that all come together that make this yearning for meaning or significance happen in the human. I think it has to do with language, it has to do with awareness of death, it has to do with the unique sense of time that I think humans experience. And I want to get very clear that I don't know why so many people seem to hear that whenever I say there is a unique time and thought and historicity to humans, people think I'm degrading animal life or that I'm suggesting that animals are somehow, that I'm saying that they're less than intelligent or that they're not worthy of concern or that they don't have feelings or the whole range of responses. I think people have accused me at many points of underestimating the capacities or intellect of animals. I don't think I've done that. I think people have heard things and then try to throw that criticism because they have that criticism ready made. The point that I have tried to make, and please, I have lots of videos on an animal and relevance, the problem of relevance and human plasticity. If anything, I'm trying to suggest that humans are the most subject to their own tampering. I guess I believe in real robust biodiversity, and I think there is enough biodiversity that sometimes a difference of degree becomes a difference of kind. Humanity is a kind of conspiring of many different features. It's the upright posture, it has to do with language, it has to do with our awareness of death, our sense of temporality, all of which may amount to say these are aspects of the same thing. They're related to this very large brain that we have. But I think when people try to just attribute to the brain, they miss how much it's part of larger environmental, has to do with these hands and how hands are able to operate in the world and our voice. Those things, they're all correlated. I think the point is that there is a difference between cyclical time and linear time. That for thousands and thousands of years, for time immemorial, ancient peoples lived with cyclical time and time just repeated. And there wasn't, I think, a yearning for a particular kind of meaning. If anything, there was collectivist activities, and these collectivist activities um, there were collectivist activities which helped to rejuvenate the world. People felt themselves to be part of larger collectives, and they sought their meaning in, I guess, very organic rituals that were tied to seasonal rhythms and life rhythms of the people, sort of in a local way, local and cosmic, perhaps simultaneously. As money and literacy set in, increasingly something like linear time breaks from cyclical time. We start to have a notion of progress. And as time is moving from cyclical orientation to a linear orientation, we're slowly seeing the releasement of the individual from the web of collective resonance, from the web of collective thought and collective rituals of rejuvenation and participation in the world's cycles and ebbs and flows. I think more and more through history, certainly by the time you get to the Romantic period and Renaissance, and as you're moving into the beginning of early modernist thought, the individual now is becoming a historical reality in an unprecedented way. For the first time, you move basically from collectivist tribal life to kingly, lordly, chieftain like rule to priestly rule, then to king, these sort of monarchs and kings. And then now, in the beginning of the modern period, you start to see individuals forming collectives and asking for something like governmental democracy. The possibility of governmental democracy formed by self-legislating individuals who would govern themselves through a representative body. This would have been impossible, prior to tons and tons and tons of infrastructure of communication technology. The two most primary I've been suggesting have been literacy and money. Both of them allow for abstract forms of value, for laws, for ways of anonymous individuals to functionally regulate their interactions. Now, I think the concern is that I think humans have a need for meaning. And then the problem becomes that some people become meaning junkies. The world has become a wreck because tons of people don't know how to see that their need for meaning has been a train wreck on the planet. And I'm talking about, look at the way that people waste their money and their time on consumerism, all kinds of crap, all the growing body of high-tech trash. There's so much waste and garbage that comes from a fashion-driven industry of a bunch of people who want to be seen in a certain way. And these are the kinds of levels of meaning that they're dealing with. I think there are other forms of meaning, though, that are very frightening. That there are, you watch the news or you watch some of the things that are going on in the world, and there are lots of people who don't have much, who have sort of been lost in the world, and they find meaning by joining a holy cause. They become what Eric Hoffer calls a true believer. And the next thing you know, they're goose stepping, or they become a suicide bomber. Why? Because they have some holy God, they have some religion, they have some higher faith, they have some grand collective that they lose themselves into. And it's glorious for their life to take on such a delusional meaning, but they leave damage and horror in their wake. There are so many meaning junkies. There are people just junked out on meaning. Now, I think, from my perspective, this is so much of what my book Sources of Significance is on, and so much of the work that I've tried to do here, so much of what I want people to talk about and think about is, how do we reckon with the need for meaning, but minimize the damage? How do we have the courage to need little? How do we learn that small little mud pies, gardens that we share, little insignificant things, how do we have the courage to accept those as our meaning horizons? How do we learn to find beauty in, I don't know, things like simple eating leftovers, being careful to recycle, trying to be vigilant over a compost pile, taking the bike or walking instead of riding a car, carpooling. I mean, there's just so many ways that one could do a little thing that brings a meaning, and yet instead we find people, in some sense, pursuing individual wealth, having just exorbitant, luxurious houses that I'm not sure if they're making them happy. I think it makes them feel important, which is some kind of meaning. But it's a bizarre meaning when we start to ask, what are the social consequences of certain people's, desire to have keys to the executive toilet? All of this kind of stuff. I don't know how to phrase. There seem to be at least three different horizons. There's one horizon of some person who's they feel freed from the collective. They may even feel themselves to be completely autonomous individuals, and they say, I'm going to worry about only myself, and I'm going to become the wealthiest, fattest cat in the neighborhood, and all they're going to pursue is more things and more things, and their life is about things, and that becomes the meaning of their lives. It leaves a train wreck. It might be good for capitalism, and it might be good for commercialism, but I'm not sure that it's the kind of meaning that has a sustainability in the long term, and I'm not sure it's the kind of practice that we say is the uh, most meaningful or possibility rich in terms of its meaning. There are other people, again, who join these holy causes, who get part of some religion that admonishes them to uh, kill foreigners in that name, or some governmental body, some abstract nation, some flag. People are going to go kill others or die for a flag. But I think there is a small, humble route of meaning, which it's called The Courage to Need Little. And it's doing simple arts that leave no object in their wake. See, YouTube kind of sucks because it leaves these videos here as objects in behind. But singing, dancing, juggling, doing an art where the art itself is the practice and it inspires others but it leaves no object. Can we find the courage to create a world that's more like that? Okay, I guess I'm out of time. Thanks.